So we have a seasoned accountant in our midst with over 10 years of professional experience in leading organizations' financial healthiness through expert accounting operations. He expertly manages tax processes from computation to documentation in line with regulations and policies. He reviews and reconciles financial transactions, reporting, and guides management decision-making by interpreting financial statements. And forecasting and developing budgets also. So he successfully champions financials due diligence through efficient internal control management. We have in our midst, I'm sure we have seen him several times when he's preaching and he's opening Bible and all that. Let's welcome accountant, not pastor this time, Ayoola Gbolagute.
Thank you very much. I know if you ask him to do any other thing, he wouldn't do it this good. He enjoys always trying to get at me. Anyway, I want to appreciate as many of us that has taken time out. Let me also appreciate the SRM community. How many of you know this is partly organized by our SRM community in Inspire? Yeah, there is a community called Sales, Retail, and Manufacturing in Inspire, and they manage this. Okay, what I intend to do today, since our time is fast spent, I don't want to, of course, when you are talking about accounting and financials, somebody told me that we have 42 fields of specialization in accounting. So you can imagine if I am to exhaust a particular aspect, how long I would spend at doing that. I don't intend to exhaust any particular aspect. I just intend to give us what I call a basic, something basic enough that will allow us to interact better. Okay. Can I get my next slides, please? Something basic enough that will allow us to interact better. So many times, a few of us would want to talk with our consultant. We want to talk with our financial persons, our bankers. And when they are making statements, when they are saying one thing or the other, you sometimes get lost. I guess so. Yeah. And it's very difficult for owners of businesses to make informed decisions when they are not on the same page with the person that is advising them financially. For us as accountants, we've had situations when you report to a non-financial manager. You know, when you get to a level at your career, you don't really interact with financial managers anymore. You interact with non-financial managers. And then you need to start breaking so many things. You need to explain beyond normal. So what we intend to just do here is to give us an understanding, of how it works in the financial, the SME, the taxation space of Nigeria, so as to enable us to discuss informedly, and then to have a knowledge of how you can navigate the tax and the financial space in our, our economy. You agree with me that if you are not knowledgeable about what is actually happening in practice, you may be lost. Those days in school and in the professional class, they taught us something actually different. And then when we get into practice, we say something entirely new. Okay, let me pause at this time to ask, how many financial persons do we have in the house? Okay, accountant. Any other person? Accountant, okay, that's good. Apologies to non-financial persons, so that I would know exactly how to, present this in a way that would all have something to take away from. So, it's important to have the knowledge of taxation as an SME, as somebody that, you are trying to put things together, to put an organization together. It's something that you must know. You must know some one or two things. Lest you get into some troubles that maybe in the next 3-4 years of your organizational life, permit me to say, you have not even gotten out of those challenges. So it's important to get it right at the first instance and get it right once. Okay, so slide 4, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. I intend to look at taxation of SME. In this short time, I would attempt to bring us to describe taxation to us and look at some applicable terms, some terms that, when those consultants, your accountants, your financial advisors, your bankers, when they are talking to you, you can relate to with what they are saying. In the tax world today, there's what we call deadlines. It's all about deadlines. You are supposed to remit this particular filing on a particular occasion, and you've not been able to meet up. There are penalties. There are deadlines. We would try to try to describe some of those deadlines to us. We'll also look at the issue of tax avoidance, tax evasion, tax planning, and the rest of them. Sometimes we do so many things that are illegal, and we say we are tax planning. It's so unfortunate that the country that we have found ourselves, nobody is checking. I usually tell my friends, colleagues, and those that care to listen that if I were to walk on the other side, when I say on the other side, if I were to work as a tax person, I don't need to do much. Just go and look for a company that has brought itself into the tax net and look at its transaction. Everybody is shooting themselves in the leg because in the name of tax planning, they are trying to cut their tax. They don't want to pay. They are actually incurring tax. So we would look at all those things. We'll also look at how to navigate the tax space. We'll look at some do's and don'ts for SMEs. Some do's and don'ts for SMEs. Some of us that have SMEs have had occasions to speak with us, and they will tell you that, I don't even know if I'm making profit. All the money that just comes, at the end of the month, I have only 5,000 in my account. I say, how did you do it? Are you sure you are not shooting yourself in the leg? Are you sure you are not even underbilling? Are you sure you are not just working like, charity organizations? You just want to. So we'll look at some things as regards to that, and then what the future holds for SMEs in this part of the world. Like I said, I'll try to be very brief. Okay. Can we move to slide 6? SMEs and taxation. I have a definition of SME, but I would like to get an understanding because I want to believe everybody here, if I'm not mistaken, falls under the category of SMEs. What you do or what you are planning to do. How many of us have our own companies, organization now that we are doing something? Let me just see your hands. 1, 2, okay. How many of us are planning to do something in the next 6 months? In the next 6 months, you are planning to do something. Anyway, like the branding, first speaker said, he said it's important for you to have knowledge. I once worked in an organization, and I remember my then medical director. When the generator goes out, the guy will jump down the stairs and will run towards the generator and go there and, is there with the mechanics. And I'll look at the man in my early days and I'll begin to laugh. So what does he know in the generator? Why is he going there? You are a doctor? You are a medical director of a medical outfit, and the generator goes out and you are going there to... What does he know? What can it know? Even if they try to explain this to him. But later in my career, I got to understand that you must know a bit of everything that happens in your organization. If not, somebody at several locations will hold you at ransom. We tell you, if you are not doing this, I will not put on the generator. And then because you don't know even what it is to put on the generator, you, at the end of the day, attempt to plead with that person and dance to the individual's tune. So it's important for us to have knowledge. What exactly do we mean by this taxation that we all shout about? Okay. Taxation, as it is a compulsory payment, a compulsory contribution by individuals, organizations, and the rest of them that earn their income within a particular geographical location that we may refer to as a country. For me, what really points or, shoots itself out in this definition of taxation is that it is compulsory. I've been to a discourse before, and somebody was trying to convince me on why he should not pay tax. And he was arguing vehemently and, look at the roads. The roads are bad to my office. And look at this and look at... I said, hope you are not expecting me to advise you on how you will escape tax or how you will not pay tax. Because that's actually not what I intend to do with that discourse. And it was a long one. And at a point, we drew a conclusion that there is this principle that is called the principle of economic justice. Whether the government provides what you want or the government does not provide what you want, taxation is compulsory. It's compulsory. And it's a pity in this part of the world, these things are not really there. And then we want to justify ourselves to say, for this reason, I will not pay tax. Or for this reason, I will not pay adequate tax. Well, I'm not a tax man, like I said earlier on. I will not hold forth. But it is important to understand that it's a compulsory payment, a compulsory contribution. And then we want to try to look at the category that you and I fall as SMEs, according to, the various definition of SMEs. We said that they are organizations that has a turnover of less than 100 million, or they have less than between 1 to 300 staff in their organization. So you can picture at the back of your mind what these organizations are. TerraWorks, do you have up to 300 staff? You are getting there. Okay. So you would agree with me that these organizations, as tiny as we may think they are, they form the major hold of every economy. Economies around the world depend on SMEs. And it's a pity in this, our country, we've not gotten it right. We've not gotten it right in what we should do and what we should not do to allow SMEs to grow. Because SME is the bedrock of any economy. It is the bedrock of any economy. They will employ everybody. They will employ majority of the people. They will give employment. They will give training. They will give all sorts of things that the government cannot provide. I sometimes worked with an organization that is into payroll, and I managed some payroll services outside the shores of this country. And there was an occasion that came up. We paid some salaries for individuals outside the country. And we got a memo from the, from the government of the country or from the regulatory authority stating that why did we not pay their tax before so time? Why are we just paying their salary at so time? And I was shocked. For me, I was like, wow, this is interesting. I wish we have this around Nigeria. That somebody is there to create some regulatory framework that will allow small industries, small organizations to grow, to achieve full potentials. But I'm sorry to say the reverse is what we see. We see people stand in the marketplace and start giving people 10,000 naira and say they are SMEs. God, in this year and age, you give a majority of some individuals that I know, you give them 10,000 naira. The next place they would branch, you can guess. The beer parlor. And before they get home, maybe they'll have 1,000 naira or 1,500 naira with them. And you are saying you are elevating poverty. Come on. We should do better. It's quite funny. Anyway, in the country, we have 3 levels of tax administration. We have that of the federal, we have that of the state, and we have that of the local government. All these levels of tax administration, at one time or the other, you will come in contact with them as an SME. They will come to your office, they will come to your space of work, and they will come and ask you for one thing or the other. Have you registered for this tax? Have you paid that tax? Have you done that? Yes, I added 35 states because you realize that of the FCT is managed by the Federal Inland Revenue Services. Okay. So, we have clarification on that we have 3 levels. Even these local government guys, they will come to your offices and tell you tenement rate, tell you land use charge, tell you one rate or the other. You as an SME, at one time or the other, you need to deal with these people. Until very recent that a law was made in Lagos State to review or to put those things in place, I had an encounter with one of the local government guys. And he came and was like, you must pay this amount at certain... And I told him, I'm not aware of this law. I just played along. They show me the law. Because I know the law was made in those days when my dad was still playing football on the field. And the rates on those laws are so obsolete that they are nothing to write home about. And I asked him, please provide me with information. I want to know how much my organization needs to pay. Because so many times, even these individuals that they put forward as the tax authority, they don't really know. And when they know, they will now, they will know they are talking to somebody informed. And at the end of that discourse, I won't tell you the end of the story. Okay, a study was carried out by the National Bureau of Statistics in 2010 that shows that in Nigeria, that small and medium-scale enterprises make up to 48% of the GDP and are 96% of businesses in the country. Tell me, where should we put our effort? It should be on SMEs. They will provide employment. They will provide food on tables of families. So many a times I look at it and I ask myself, the crisis we are having in the northern part of the country, if proper structure and means of, livelihood are given to these people. As an SME, you don't need to have a big company. Just have something that the flow comes in. The flow comes in. And then, when it's just like when I go to work on a particular working day and I come back to the house so tired after the day's work, you now tell me they are fighting in one place. Let's go and follow them. Let's go and protest. It will be very difficult for you to catch my attention with that. So that's to tell you that the SME in Nigeria plays a very important role, whether as SMEs or as big companies, as medium companies. Every organization that derives income from the country must pay tax, because taxation is a compulsory payment. It's a compulsory payment. Okay. So what I just want to do, we have a lot of tax in Nigeria. A lot of tax. In fact, if you are counting them, they may range up to maybe in the realm of 20s or 50s, as the case may be, depending on the industry you find yourself. When you find yourself in an industry, you get the array of taxation for that industry, and then you begin to battle with it. But there are some of them that are common to most industries. They cut across from one industry to the other. And I wouldn't like to spend time on this, because these are informations that you can actually pick up whenever you need them. But just to bring them to your knowledge, so that when that financial advisor or your consultant is speaking with you, you can speak from an informed position. I penciled down a few of them. We have the company income tax. The company's income tax. We are talking about types of taxes and their deadlines. We have the company's income tax. We have the company's income tax, which is 30%. Which is 30%. And of recent, I discovered that even in Nigeria, you can pay. There are some people that are charged tax, company income tax, at the rate of 20%. When we are talking to SMEs like this, those that are involved in exports, those that are involved in agricultural products, those that are involved in some other one or two specifications by the law, you can actually be taxed at the rate of 20%, but provided your revenue does not exceed, your turnover does not exceed 1 million. Your turnover does not exceed 1 million for the first 5 years. I want to believe these are informations for SME. For the first 5 years, your revenue does not exceed 1 million. You can actually get your company income tax at the rate of 20%. At the rate of 20%. Yes, we said that the due date is 6 months after the organization year end. But for organizations that are newly incorporated, you can take 18 months. You have to file in your company's income tax as you are filing your return. And then we have the education tax. Let me try to rush up on this aspect. We have the education tax, which is 2%. The education is usually filed along the company's income tax. So many times your consultant do these things. They would come and give you that federal inland form for you to sign it. Say, please sign it so that we can go and make payments for your education tax, your company income tax. And then we have the value added tax, which is still 5%. Yes, I agree. It is 5%. We have the value added tax, it is 5%. And it is expected to be filed on or before the 21st of the preceding month. On or before the 21st day of the preceding month. It is a tax that I would love to spend much more time because so many of us come across it. So many of us come across it. Sometimes a few of us even mistaking it with the withholding tax. A few of us mistake the value-added tax with the withholding tax. This tax has some items that are exempted from this tax. There are some items that are also zero-rated when it comes to value-added tax. When it comes to value-added tax, it is usually it goes with a schedule. It goes with a schedule. You write your check, you fill the VAT form, and then you go to your nearest tax station. But today, all these things, I think in the past 1 or 2 years, you can do it online. You can actually file it online. So these are important tax. The reason why I said the withholding tax is similar to that of the value-added tax is because when you take, for instance, you intend to sell a service and you quote the price of the service at 100,000 and you had your value-added tax to it. Usually when individuals want to pay you and they are in that particular industry that charges their withholding tax for 5% also, they will withhold that 5% amount of your tax. And so many people that don't know that 5% that you quoted as your VAT, they will withhold it. And so many people that don't know, we say, they have withheld my VAT. What they are actually holding back is your withholding tax. Is actually withholding tax and not your VAT. Except if you are in the federal government, you are transacting with the federal government. The federal government will withhold tax. Instead of 5% now, they will withhold 10%. They will withhold the VAT, they will withhold the withholding tax. If the case of the service you render happens to be those ones that fall under the category where you charge 5% withholding tax. Or you work with the oil majors. The oil majors, they will withhold the VAT also. And the reason why they do this is because it's not far-fetched. Transactions that go on with the oil majors, the government, the federal government, and the rest of them are usually huge transactions. And they don't want to give you the money to go and pay it as tax. Imagine I give this young man the money. Go, okay, we are giving you the VAT. We are go and pay it and between giving you the VAT and the tax office, something happens to the money. So they will decide to withhold it themselves. Withholding tax, like we said, is an advanced payment of companies' income tax. It is actually used when you pay withholding tax on behalf of a client. When you withhold that amount from the payment of the client and then you remit it on behalf of your client, the Federal Inland Revenue will give you what is called the credit note to show that you have paid, and that credit note, you will collect it and return it to your client. And when your client is about to pay his company's income tax, he will use that credit note, the amount on the face value of that credit note, to reduce his company income tax. So many of us are just... can we have the rates of those withholding tax, just for us to glance through? That's slide 8. Okay, we have the personal income tax also. Yeah, these are the rates. These are the rates for different types of jobs, different types of industries you find yourself that carry out all these transactions. Let me quickly move to the personal income tax. This is another one that concerns every one of us. Whether you have 2 people in your company, you have 1 person in your company, at one time or the other, you pay them salaries. And because you are paying salaries, you would have to deduct the personal income tax. Like I was explaining earlier on, the responsibility to deduct and to pay the personal income tax in Nigeria is on the employer. Unlike other countries, that the responsibility is on the employee. As you are earning your money, they will give you in full, and then you go and file your own taxation by yourself. But in this country, Nigeria, the organization has the responsibility. And that's why I laugh so many times when a few organizations think they are cheating the staff. They don't know that they are cheating themselves, which goes back to the fact that there is no proper monitoring, there is no proper regulatory authority in the country. If not, nobody should be able to escape with that. When you deduct the personal income tax from the salaries of staff, and then you hold it back to yourself, you don't remit it, you don't give it to the staff, you just, the law said that we should deduct, so I have deducted. Okay, where is the money so deducted? Go and pay it in. Let these people have tax certification number. Let them have tax card. We are working on it. And then when you talk, they will send people like us to you. You know, when you are an accountant that layers between management and the staff, your eyes will see a lot of things. When they send you some messages, tell them we are thinking about it. You are thinking about it. After you deducted it from their salary, you are thinking about it, whether to pay it or not to pay it. And then you will go there and you begin to mumble words and Anyway, the personal income tax is calculated at a stepped rate. For those, and it's calculated, this table shows the calculation per annum. Anybody that earns within the range of course, we have the minimum tax. Within 300 and below will fall into the category of 7%. Within the next 300, that's 300 plus another 300, 600, will fall within the next cadre. 300 plus 300 plus 500 will fall under 15%, and so on. You expect me to teach you everything, Abi? So that you go to the office and tell your accountant, I now know what you are doing. You are not doing anything in this office. Anyway, there's so much. What we intend to do about this is just to give basic knowledge. To give basic knowledge. So that when your accountant comes up and tells you, we need to pay our personal income tax, and it needs to be paid on or before the 10th of the preceding month, you will know that this guy is actually trying to save you. He's not actually trying to rip you off. I've been in an organization before. I wrote all kinds of memo because they taught us as professionals. They said when you go to management meeting and you talk, and it's as if we are talking about how we'll use money to do better things. They are talking about how they will use money to pay tax. And then you begin to get all kinds of victimization. They said professionally, put it into writing and let it lie. So that in the days of judgment, you would be vindicated. And I had an experience, a very nasty one. I did all I could with management. Pay. And they said no. And one day, like it usually happens, the tax man came. And when they came with all kinds of forces. Both the Mopo forces. And they were threatening to close the organization down. And the next thing management will say to the accountant is, why didn't you advise us aright? You have been in this organization and you did not tell us. And immediately I pulled out my mail where I wrote a long story of my life. And they said, well, how are we going to do it? Now you are talking. Because, in fact, it's a long story. Let's leave that story. I made them pay, actually. I made them pay because there were so many of those things I could do myself. I told them, please, let's get a consultant. Let's get a consultant. And when you get a consultant, you will pay. You will pay for what your in-house accountant can do. So it was a long one. Okay, we have the penalties. For the company's income tax, we said that there are a lot here, which... okay, let me just try to... That if you fail to remit in the first month, you pay 25%. And for subsequent months of failure is 5,000. It's possible that even the responsible officer of the organization may be held down if this payment is not done. And when the law says responsible officer, it may be the chief accountant. It may be the MD. It may be the chair. There was a day we were trying to define accounting officer. When they say who is the accounting officer of the organization, don't be deceived. It's not your accountant. You are the chief accounting officer, the owner of your organization. You call the shots. The accounting officer is the person that is accountable, that is responsible for do's and don'ts. You call the shot. So when you think somebody will come and arrest me as the accountant, I'll just tell them, I'm sorry, I think there was a legal case in one of the universities, and the registrar was about to be arrested as the accounting officer. It was a subject of study in one of our professional classes. And he was about to be arrested as the accounting officer, and he proved to them, he said, I'm not the accounting officer. The accounting officer is actually the man in charge. He is the vice chancellor. If he does not tell me to, if he does not sign it, there's nothing I can do. And the man escaped himself. So there are a whole lot of penalties. In the payee, of course, we have the 10% per annum for non-payment, and the rest of them. We have that of the educational tax also. We have that of the educational tax also. We also have for withholding tax. Failure to remit withholding tax to the due will attract a penalty of 10% per annum and an interest at the CBN lending rate. That's the MPR rate. What's the MPR rate now? Is there anybody that knows the MPR rate? I think they decided it some few weeks. They retained it at 13.5. Daniel. You're just shaking your head as if they retained it at 13.5. So you pay the penalty at maybe the 10% and had the 13.5%, and then somebody will begin to ask me, how do I reduce my tax? The only way you can effectively reduce your tax in an environment that things are working is to comply. So that you avoid all these 10% and all these 5% and all the rest of them. Of course, you have the penalty for value-added tax. I think I should talk about this because a whole lot of us are also involved in this. Failure to register for VAT is 10,000 in the first month and 5,000 in subsequent months. There are a whole lot of organizations that you send them a VATable invoice. They will send the invoice back. They say, this amount is too much. Why did you add VAT? The VAT will now become the item of negotiation. They will say, remove this VAT, remove this 5%, so that we can pay you your money. And then you begin to look at them and say, these people know what they are saying. I can't remove VAT, because ordinarily when I remove the VAT, I am violating a particular law. So it goes on and on and on and on. It goes on and on and on and on. There is this one that is usually common when you want to go and obtain your tax clearance. They will tell you, go and bring your evidence of VAT remittance. And then you will go there. They will tell you, there is late submission in this particular month. and they will count it. They will say you did not pay VAT in January. And the VAT of January, you did not pay it in February. And the VAT of January, you did not pay it in March. And then they will count lateness from January to February, 5,000. From February to March, 5,000. That's actually the VAT for January. And then when they finish counting 60,000 up to December, they will now come back to the one of February. They say those people can be very funny. And the reason why they do all these things, I'm sure we all don't know. We all don't know. May God help us in this country. Let me just try and... Okay, how then do we navigate seeing all these realities? That the realities are before us. For me to grow my SME to that point that I would be able to obtain credit, I will be able to trade without fear or favor. Where SMEs of my categories are competing for a contract, I can also put my leg there and compete. I was privy to an organization some days past, had a contract of 6 million somewhere, and they wanted to bid for it. And they were unable to bid for it because the organization is asking, send us your TIN number, tax identification number. Don't only send us your tax identification number, send us evidence that you are registered for VAT. 2. And 3, send us evidence that you remit VAT. So they ask for these 3 things. And this is an organization that, they don't want to hear anything tax. They feel you are threatening them. And when they send this thing, they called me and said, so what do you want to do now? Do you want to go and pay all the old VAT today and pay all the old penalties since the day of your incorporation and the rest of them? I just told them, look, you have a tin, Abi. Put it on your letterhead. Type your tin there. Type your company name there. Type your company, go and give it to them. If you are able to clinch the contract, more grease. Because they did not do the right thing at the right time. So many times, all this compliance will put you as an SME in a position that will allow you to be able to bid favorably. So, let's look at what exactly is tax evasion. What exactly is tax evasion? We say it is a deliberate and willful act of not disclosing full income, which is subject to tax in order to reduce tax liability, thus paying less tax and the rest of them. We know all those things that we used to do. I was in an establishment. They will say, just post it under marketing expenses. There are some ledgers that we know where to see where all your excesses are. We, the tax people, or we, the accountants, we know where you post it. We know all those illegal transactions. When we see it, we know where to trace it from. And the MD will come, draw funds from the organization and say, post it under marketing expenses, post it under business development, so that it will not be taxable. Post it under, and the accountant will be struggling. It will be struggling. Some organizations even go as far as, they will tell you we'll pay our salary twice in a month. We'll pay one via cash, and we'll pay the other as salary. Don't say I told you. I didn't tell you. I didn't tell you. But the truth is that those that know what to look in your books, they know where to go. They know how to catch you. The best thing to do, if you were in my position, I will tell you to just comply. The tax is not too much. When you look at it, it's not actually too much. And that's where tax planning come into this space. Because you must be able to plan your transaction. You must be able to enjoy the tax advantages. I was at a discourse with somebody and we're talking about tax planning. For every guy that comes into your organization, you buy a car for the guy. For every manager, he has an official car. And the tax guy will go to that official car and look at the cost of the official car. Oh, this official car is how much? 15 million. And divide the official car by the useful life of the car. This car, in the next 4 years, they will write it off. So let's divide that 15 million by 4. And the result of that 15 million, we'll just carry it and add it to the salary of the guy and remove his tax from there. Because that's what they refer to as benefit in kind. But why don't you provide a pool car for your managers? Why don't you provide a pool car for your managers? A car that cannot be identified with any particular manager. And then it becomes the property of the organization. A driver is attached to the car. He carries Mr. A to wherever he wants. It's not his car, but it's a pool car. In that way, you have successfully evaded or you have successfully avoided a particular amount of taxation. So these are ways in which you plan your transaction in your organization to make sure that you are able to reduce your tax exposure. Or whatever falls under this heading is called tax planning and by extension, tax avoidance. I'm trying to run through. Okay, what I just did in my second to the last slide is to look at what are the rules for small and medium scale enterprises. There are some financial rules that you must take into consideration. And I want to share a few of them with you. Number one, try to record all transactions. It's not all of us that has all kinds of accounting software. The Sage, the Tally, the ERP, and the rest. You don't know, not every one of you has gotten to that level to have all those accounting. But you have exercise book. Hello? You have biros. Go to one corner. When you buy fuel, record it. When Madam so pays you 20,000, record it. When this one, you go out, maybe you take a cab for the purpose of the organization, record it there. At the end of the month, when you look at these expenses, it will help you to take proper decisions. At that point, you will know that, this business I'm doing, I better retire quick, before I begin to eat my income and my capital. Especially those in provisions business. You will see them, they will rent a big shop, and the shop will be filled, everything will be glowing and everything. Maybe as a result of one facility they obtained from one bank or the other. And eventually, everything will just go, and they are in debt. Because they've not been taking time to actually monitor their expenses. I know of somebody, some time ago, I was trying to buy tire for my car. And the guy was trying to obtain a loan from a bank I was working at that time. And was expecting me to facilitate that facility. And my guys that went, the loan guys that went into the field, came back with the guy's analysis. His net worth and everything. I looked at it, this guy is on the line. Oh. I cannot put my head in this facility. Because this guy is actually operating along the line. And one day I got discussing with him. I said, I want to buy tire for my car. I said, go and get fairly used tire. And the guy said, no, I don't use fairly used tires. I said, Because he does not know his financial analysis. If he knows that all these brand new tire that you are buying, you are actually dipping your hands into your capital. The loan that the bank has given to you, that's what you are seeing, and you think is your money. Because it does not take all this analysis in. So please, try to record your expenses. Check your bank statement from time to time. Even when you are having facility, request for explanation. I had worked in an organization before we obtained a facility. And you know all these charges they used to send? All these invisible charges that you will not know until when you sign the loan document. And as an accountant, I need to do the bank reconciliation. And I need to check the bank statement. I need to check the cash book to know what's happening. And all of a sudden, on a particular week, on a particular week, I saw 50,000 in 4 places. 300, 200,000. What's happening? Who expended this? How did we? And I called up the banker, the account officer. What's happening? He said, your facility. I said, I know we are doing facility now. How did you calculate this one? Explain it to me. And the guy said, let me call you back. I said, okay, no problem. Take your time. It's not all of you that know all these things. Go and ask your boss. And he did not call. And I called repeatedly. And eventually I said, you see what happened in that charges is, do you know what? Mr. Ayo, come to the banking hall. I will withdraw that money and I will give it to you so that you can pay it back into your company's account. I said, what? What do you take me to be? You withdraw the money and give it to me to pay it back into... That will not happen. You better reverse the transaction because you don't want to be blamed for excess charges, which is actually fraudulent. And at the first instance, I told him that, look, if you don't withdraw this, reverse this transaction in the next 24 hours, I'll put it into writing and I'm going to escalate it immediately. The guy reversed the transaction. And funny enough, my management did not know. All these things we are talking about, the person that used to sign the check, even safe, did not know. When they just carry the check, he will just sign it. Okay, where is the invoice? Okay, this is it. He will just sign it. So you need to take your time to look at all these bank statements. There are some of these charges that are not supposed to be. Separate your personal expenses from your business expenses. Separate it. Separate it. By extension, pay yourself salary. When you are working as, you are a tailor, you are a whatever SME you get yourself involved into, separate your business expenses. Separate it from your personal expenses. You want to say, oh, this particular amount of fuel is what I use for my business. This particular amount is what I use for my house. Separate it. And at a point, at the end of the month, when you are paying your staff, whether there are 2 of them, whether there are 3 of them, pay yourself also. Whether the money is 50,000, whether it's 100,000, whether it's 20, at least pay yourself. Let the organization, let the expenses feel the services you are rendering. If you are to render these services outside your SME, your small organization, how much will you charge? Put it there. Let it be going to deficit. Let your P&L be going to negative. Eventually, you will see how you progress. Gradually, it will be turning into positive. Or the negative will be reducing. When eventually you now break even. Okay. I'm trying to rush through. Create a budget. Work out a weekly budget, a monthly budget, a quarterly budget. Don't go for annual budget for SMEs. I will advise, don't go for annual budget. Go for at most monthly budget. This is what I need for this month to run. Write it down. Put the cost analysis. When you exceed it at the end of the month, see by what amount you exceeded your budget. And then begin to ask yourself, what did I do wrong? Was there an opportunity for me to have bulk purchases? Maybe if I had taken opportunity of bulk purchases, I wouldn't have incurred this amount of transport that I incurred. So for that reason, I know that I use X and X number of materials in a month. So instead of going to the market 4 or 5 times, I can actually go to the market once and save that transport cost. Okay. Create a budget. Create a culture of reserve. Don't be like that man in that advert. There's one advert that they showed, and they said the man was using his 5 hands to eat. Say, bring the amala, bring the plate of bring bokoto, bring shaki, and the day you make one bumper profit, that day, everybody in the yard, everybody in the compound, you are going to declare for all of them. No, it's not like that now. What about the rainy days? What will happen? Save, have reserves. When there's an opportunity for a bigger business, because you have reserves, you don't run to the bank. That will give you, in fact, when you run to micro banks these days, I'm not supposed to look at that direction. They will tell you they will give you between 3 to 5% in a month. Now multiply 5% by I didn't hear. They'll tell you between 3 to 5% in a month. 5% times 12. That's 60%. That means if you collect 100,000, you will make 160,000. That is still cost though. You will not carry the 60,000, 160,000 and give them. Where now is your own profit? Where is your own expenses? May God help those people. And the way they are making money, if you work in any of those organizations, you know what I'm saying. I've been opportune to see their books. Somebody threw open an organization like that in less than 1 year. He had, what do you call this cost? Pre-incorporation cost of around 50-something million. And in less than 1 year, the guy outran his pre-incorporation cost, began to make profits in 8, 9, 10 months. Is it juju? Because the industry. Let me just pause. Create a culture of reserves. Savings from your cash. We've talked about that. So many people do what is called this ajo. It's not out of place, but don't do your ajo with those people that used to carry bag. Put your ajo in the bank, please. Lest you come and hear stories that touch. Put your ajo, if it's 200 naira, 5,000 naira from what you make, put it in the bank on weekly basis, on daily basis. Put it in the bank. Put it in an account that you don't have the ATM or you don't have the, and then you are able to fall back to it. Have a good billing system. Some people think they are running SME, but what they are running is a charity organization. They are just running charity organization because you are afraid that people will turn down your product. Have a good billing system. Incorporate all your costs. Fine, there are pricing policies. You want to use a penetrating pricing policy, a little bit below market price, and as soon as you penetrate, okay, I have sat down inside the room now. This person is now my customer. He's expecting supplies from me. I want to jack my price a little bit. You must bill. If not, you must bill appropriately. If not, you'll be shooting yourself in the legs. And majority of our SMEs do it. Say, what am I doing? I do the thing in my house. I use my brother's light. I use my uncle's water. I use my auntie's electricity. And then you are not pricing appropriately. That's your opportunity to make the money so that when you leave those comforts, you can actually put things together. Take advantages of credit purchases as it is the cheapest source of funds. Take advantages of credit purchases as it is the cheapest source of fund. So, you would agree with me, even though I try as much as well to avoid to talk against it. But if you know what you are doing, you can actually take credit purchases. You own a provision store. Oh, bring this, bring that. You have your books in place. So you know that all these goods that are in your shop, they are not actually they are not your property. But instead of you going to those banks that will tell you to bring 5%, you can actually sell those goods, turn it around, quickly use the money to buy 1 or 2 goods somewhere, turn it around, and pay the guy after 1 week. You must meet the payment period so for you to be credible. If not, the person will not give you goods again. He said, you will pay me after 1 week. So I want to buy goods worth 1 million. And because I know that I have high patronage, I can sell it in 2 days. And within those 2 days, I can use the money to quickly do something within 1 day, and then, yes, rounding off. Finally, I would want to say, in the words of Benjamin Franklin, there are 2 things that are constant in life: tax and debt. Let us take note of this so that we don't shoot ourselves in the leg. Thank you very much. I'm sure we don't have questions. I explained everything very, very well.
Please come back. Okay, three people have questions. Let's, four, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, we have 8 questions. Just 8 questions. Don't make up your mind up to now, please.
Ayo, I've worked in organizations, 2 different organizations, and both of them had different approaches to taxing their staff salary. In one company, the take-home pay is actually higher because what they remit as tax for the staff is very low. I think there's a way they arrange the income so that the bulk of your income is under transportation or something. Then in another company, the tax is very high, so almost 25% of your income is going to tax. So what I want to find out is the first company doing it wrong, or you can place what you pay your staff under the different headings so that you make the tax burden lesser for them. Because in company A customer or a staff whose salary was 100,000 naira was going home with 95,000 naira every month. And in company B, a staff whose salary was 200,000 or was 150K was going home with 90K every month. So you earn more money, but your take-home pay is lower. So which one is best, and how can we use it to help our staff get the most out of their salaries?
Okay, 2 minutes. What you are trying to talk about is an issue that came up before, is it 2011 or 2014? The structure of the personal income tax law was changed. I'm not sure, is it 2011? Prior to that time, you could structure your salaries in a way that you would load the aspect that is chargeable, and then you make the aspect that is not chargeable. Sorry, you load the aspect that is not chargeable, and the aspect that is chargeable, you make it very light. Before 2011, that was possible, and a good number of organizations usually take advantage of it. And under that tax regime also, there's what is called contract employee, contract staff. It was more in vogue. Instead of an organization to employ you directly, they will tell somebody to employ you, and then the somebody will now give you to the organization as contract staff. In that case, they will charge withholding tax on your salary. But in the new tax regime, it changed. Whether you load it as transport, you load it as housing, you load it as... The tax is now charged on the gross income. After you have removed all the reliefs that are available now, and the allowances that are available for you to deduct. So, before now, it was not on the gross amount, but now it's on the gross amount. That is no more possible. Anybody that is doing that, go and look down very well. It's either one of two things. The person is ignorant of the new tax law, or the person is actually evading tax.
Please, to follow up with what she asked, are you now saying that allowances are taxable? That's number one. Number two, when does a company that is just starting start paying tax? Number three, the VAT a company pays directly to the VAT authority. You bank the remaining money in the bank. The bank equally charges you VAT. How is that?
It's confused somewhere. Come again with the questions, please.
Pay VAT on your company. The remaining money you put in the bank. The bank also charges you VAT. on that remaining money. Is it expected to be so?
Okay, I think I understand. Let me take this one first. The VAT you pay for your company is not based on your money in the bank. Remember, VAT is called a value added tax. VAT comes as a result of value that you have provided to somebody in need. It does not arise when you just sit down on your own. Somebody will come and start carrying VAT and come and meet you. It does not happen. That's why it's usually called, before now it is called sales tax. It only goes with your sales invoice. It's called sales tax before they now changed the name into what we know as value added tax now. So the one that the bank charges you is different from the VAT that you paid. Usually when they charge VAT, they either give you interest. It comes on maybe your savings account or a particular transaction that you carry out. Take for instance, you carry out, you have a savings. This usually happens with a particular bank. They send you all those things at the end of the month. Just say pa, 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 on your phone. You have an income as a result of your balance in that bank. Usually your savings account. Because you don't generate income from your, what we know as the current account or the checking account. Exactly. Because they are rendering a service. That's what they charge the value added tax on. Like I said, you don't just sit down in your little corner and they come and charge you VAT. Even in the actual sense, the VAT you pay to the Federal Inland Revenue Service is only when you carry out sales. That's when you go and file your VAT. In a situation whereby your organization has not been operating in a particular month, you have to print your bank statement, attach it to whatever documentation, and go and tell them that you are filing 0 this month because you have not made any value this month. They accept it when you file 0 VAT. They accept it. You asked 2 other questions.
Allowances, are they taxable?
Okay. Then what's the other?
For employees.
What's
Then
the other one?
The other one is when do we start paying tax on a new company?
When you are talking about value added, when you are talking about personal income tax, the very moment you have a staff and you are paying the person's salary, you deduct the personal income staff. Now, when you talk about allowances, like I've said, this new tax regime, it takes into consideration your gross amount. I asked somebody, send me a sample of your payroll, and the person sent it. In fact, it's more than one Excel sheet. I will be turning the page of the Excel. Chicken allowance, standing up allowance, sitting down allowance, dressing allowance, and all the whole allowance. They will charge everything. It's the gross amount that they are looking for. They are not interested in the names. It's the gross, whatever name you give it, even including the official card they attached to you. If there is a record to prove that, they will monetize that official card. It's called benefit in kind. They will monetize it, divide it by the number of years. There's what is called the depreciable number of years of the fixed asset. And then they determine the amount chargeable per annum. And then they put it in as if, take for instance, the card they gave you is 4 million. They share it into 4 years. The 1 million for a year, they add it into your income. And they charge it. So many times, we don't do the right thing. That's why we don't really know all these things. Okay. Okay. Immediately. When you are talking about personal income tax, now company income tax. Okay, there is what we call, they won't charge you any tax, any VAT, if you have not made any value. Remember, the company income tax is on profit. And if you have not made any amount of, where do they want to charge it from? Until when you start operation and monies begin to come into your bank account, and then you can go and pay their, there are so many organizations that incorporate in 2001 and they did not start operation until 2010. Nobody's going to charge you anything. One more, and then every other place you can. I'm still very much around. Let us have time for lunch so that we can discuss at that point. Let me just take him and then we can discuss. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you. When auditors are coming, they will tell you, don't divulge any information. Let them talk to accountants. Oga accountant, what information are you people hiding? Because if you are making this information clear to all staff, we will not be ignorant. Up to the point that we will work, we will leave the organization, and we are now doing our own. And the same thing is happening because we don't have information. And most times when they come, like they inspect you, some people, they have companies, but they don't have bank accounts.
Sorry, they have what?
Company, maybe they don't have bank account. Because when you want to tell them to open a company, a liability company, limited liability company, one thing will come in is the moment you put limited, they will come over. So just put ventures or whatever.
They will still come.
If that one, they will manage them. So what I'm asking now is, please help us as upcoming entrepreneurs and business owners on this part we should be going. Because some people just start the business without even doing the proper thing, opening a bank account. And when it is time for them to look for maybe a loan or a facility, and you are telling them, they will now be looking, how do I do it? Okay, that's why we are here.
Okay.
We want to understand it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. You've just asked like a question that will be ironed out in another 1 hour, just in few seconds. Let me pick it from the first instance. You said about when auditors come in, and in some organizations they will tell them auditors are coming in this week, so all of you junior staff from this category don't come to work from home. Work from home. Yes, in some organizations it happens. They will tell you work from home, and when eventually you are even allowed to come into the system, they will tell you, in fact, they will go and lodge the auditors at the outskirts, that part of the office that once they all leave the office, they are going outside the gate. They won't have to come and see you, the staff, or get involved. So many things happen. But this is the rules that I tell accountants and upcoming finance people. It's just a pity that our country is such that nobody is looking. It's actually difficult for you to hide financial information. I've seen an organization that has one financial statement for bidding, one financial statement for tax purposes, another financial statement for management accounting, all kinds of financial statements for different scenario, different purpose. And because we are duplicating and presenting fictitious records, nobody wants anybody to come and confirm. Usually, those tax auditors usually ask questions like, how are you? Are you a staff of this organization? And you say, yes. Are you a manager? What's your name? They know your organization have given them a payroll. They will go to the payroll and go and check your name. Should the manager earn this amount? Because your organization is likely to have like 2 or 3 payrolls. There is one they show to them. There is a different one they use in paying you, just to reduce the tax. So it's messy. And because I still want to keep my employment, when they say don't go to this side, I have not created my own SME. Neither have I because you still want to put food on your table. And I'm sure as time goes on, our country will get better. Our country will get better. With the advent of BVN and picking records of individuals right from the banking sector, you can be sure very soon we'll have a tag on almost everybody in the financial industry. And then, even in the case of, when the case of fictitious records come to play, it can be easily detected. Thank you very much. If you have other questions, please, let's talk about it. So that
Yeah, please, try and clap. And that is all the questions we are taking.